let's turn to the UK and
So we've
podcast
taken
Lotus
a look
Eaters. Piers Morgan had an interview with Tucker Carlson not too long ago, and yeah, he basically just said he would, I think he even tweeted out eventually, he would effectively sell out his country, or his countrymen, for a curry. So here we have one of the latest from podcast Lotus Eaters. Piers Morgan is an evil lunatic. This should come as no shock to anyone, if you know anything about Piers Morgan.
So we've taken a look at the massive replacement that is going on in the UK right now, with the huge amount of immigrants coming in and the massive amount of British people going out, leaving this country. And you would think...
Oh yes, that's another thing. As we covered in yesterday's stream, there's an exodus going on of a lot of native Britons who are just saying, fuck this shit, I'm out. And going to all sorts of different parts unknown, but yeah, it's just becoming too much. The country's too unsafe, it's overregulated, they're all overtaxed, and they just don't feel like there's much of a future left for them in the United Kingdom. So they're leaving for greener pastures. And you can't blame them. Anyway.
I think that any sane person would see that as an absolute travesty, a tragedy of the highest order, one of the worst things to ever happen in history, that one of the greatest countries that once headed the greatest empire the world has ever seen has been torn down to such an extent. Some people don't believe that. Some people actually look around and see that this is a good thing and would be willing to trade their own countrymen for the sake of having exotic foreign foods, which actually aren't even really exotic foreign foods in the first place.
And haven't we got the recipes?
We do have the recipes.
Yes. More people need to be standing up to people like Piers Morgan and saying, we have the recipes, you gluttonous twat.
So.
And actually, we made the recipes in the first place.
Oh, in this example you've got here, that comes from Scotland, doesn't it?
Yes. And that's where I'm going to be talking about today, the kinds of people who are more than happy to sacrifice you, your family, your ancestry, your history, your culture, and your future for the sake of their delicious foreign slop, and the consequences of that going back a very, very long time. In the most recent news story that Piers Morgan has been involved in, he was...
I know it's expensive to go out these days, even to just eat at a fast food restaurant, and it doesn't matter where in the Western world you are, it's expensive everywhere. I wonder how many of you are seeing an uptick in people eating meals with their hands that would traditionally be eaten with a fork, a knife, and a spoon. I wonder if any of you have been seeing that as of late. An uptick in that. You've got some influencers and people on TikTok and Instagram posting reels about that sort of thing, you know, saying to stick it to colonialism and whatever sort of stupid twaddle they're trying to justify total savagery. But yeah, I'm wondering if anybody's noticing that, if for the most part people tend to be eating with their hands the usual thing like a burger or, you know, grabbing a chicken tendy or something like that.
In an interview with Tucker Carlson, where he was interviewing Tucker, and on it they got onto the consequences of mass migration, and Tucker asked him a very simple question regarding the demographic replacement, which is, what do you actually have now that you didn't have before all these people arrived that makes this country better? What has been improved by these hordes of third worlders showing up on your doorstep? And of course, the only thing that Piers could go for, the only thing that matters to vile scum like himself, is food. And he doubled down on this when criticised on social media by saying, there are a lot of white English people I would happily trade for a good weekly chicken tikka masala. Would anybody like to
What a morally evil thing to think, let alone say out loud.
Yeah,
I thought the trade... He actually says trade. I trade them. Sorry, I thought the trading people was a bad thing. Wasn't it? Isn't it? I thought that. On many levels,
It also, and a lot of people have pointed this out, it harkens back to Jacob and Esau in the Bible. And Esau in particular... Was it Esau? I believe it was Esau, yeah. Trading his birthright over a bowl of soup, which earned him even a rebuke from God himself. I'm going to swap some things around here, chat, real quick. Let's move you lot over here. There we go. Perfect. If you really cared about recipes, you would advocate only importing grandmas. There's a thought.
Deplorable, truly deplorable thing to say.
I'm trying not to Fed post or libel here.
Everybody in the chat, please Fed post in your mind. Keep it internal. Keep it in your heart. We all have a Fed poster in our hearts. Sadly, YouTube would not be happy if you were to put it into the chat, so please don't. Either way, he's putting forward this idea that all that...
I think the closest we can come to is, how about we just trade Piers Morgan? And you know what? We can just make that a one-way trade. Send him off to where the fuck ever. And just go about our day.
Happens is you trade a few English people and you get food in return. Bing, bang, bosh, done.
I wonder what sort of gourmet meals, exotic gourmet meals we could get for trading Piers Morgan. Perhaps a nice succulent Chinese meal.
The trade, that's what you get. And people have been trying to make this argument for a long time. So I thought we'd go through a little bit of the history of this, of people who are willing to sacrifice their own history and countrymen for the foreigners, the kind of arguments that they've made, and then also go through the actual trade that is made. What happens when you sacrifice your own people on the altar of multiculturalism and its wide variety of exotic restaurants, which actually were mostly foods that we made in the first place because we went over to the foreign countries, we tried eating their food, and it killed us because it was literally covered in feces most of the time. So we decided to make nice, clean versions of it, and also we didn't need their foreign slop in the first place because British...
Little known fact about a lot of that foreign cuisine. A lot of people don't really like to talk about that sort of thing because it's true. This is Democracy Manifest, elite ball knowledge.
Food is the best. It's time to get over this blood libel that, for the sake of people not liking the idea of beans on toast, means we need to ethnically replace ourselves and have foreign rape gangs come over. No, beans on toast is delicious. Beef Wellington is delicious.
Yes.
Sunday roast is delicious.
Yeah.
Everything the British make, food-wise, for the most part, is delicious, and you've simply been psyoped into thinking that it isn't, so that you'll justify having an Indian takeaway or a Chinese on every corner in this country.
Yeah. Yes. Beans on toast, especially, is delicious. And I will hear no arguments to the contrary. I think I had a post in the Castle Rexworth Discord under the food and drink section. A few of them, actually. Here we are. This is from Lauren Chen. British food is actually delicious. Anyone saying otherwise is lying in hopes you accept mass migration in exchange for curry and kebabs, which is a false dichotomy anyway, by the way. Well, I mean, look at this. This is beef Wellington, chat. Does that not look excellent and delicious? A lovely fruit and yogurt parfait. Sunday roast with all the trimmings. A full English breakfast. I had this almost on the daily last time I was in the UK. And to me, paradise is waking up to a big plate of this every morning with a big warm mug of English breakfast tea. Beans on toast haters are like Marmite haters. They've never tried it. I have tried Marmite before. That I do not like. That to me just tasted like a paste of salt. Beans taste good. Put it on bread. What about that isn't perfect? Especially British beans. Top it off with a little bit of shredded cheese too. And angels sing when you take that first bite. All of that does look pretty good. Yum. Communist propaganda trying to subvert our food culture. Cheeseburgers #1, guys. Don't let him lie. No! Bacon acceptable, I guess. Yes. No, this is proper black bacon here. This isn't like the dried out strips that you used to with American breakfast. No, this is proper black bacon here. Why don't we put beans on the burgers yet? We did it at hot dogs. There's a thought. I'd try that once. Diomedes Appreciator. I'll happily eat nothing but Anglo food for the rest of my life if we get rid of the invaders. Okay, that was supposed to be a little bit bigger than that. This is as big as it gets, chat. But look here. We have fish and chips. We've got, as we saw earlier, full English breakfast. Also as seen earlier, Sunday roast, beef Wellington, steak and kidney pie, cottage pie, toad in the hole. I don't know why it's listed twice, but there it is. A Cornish pastry, bangers and mash. Bangers and mash listed twice, not sure why that is. And a ploughman's lunch. Shepherd's pie isn't mentioned F-tier list. Yeah. I think they might have mislabeled. I think shepherd's pie is supposed to be this one down here. Well, I'm hungry now, considering I only ate half a burger today. I'll go eat the other half. Starts with mostly burger, little beans. Soon it's mostly beans, a little burger. Next thing you know, you're eating beans on toast. Exactly. It's a grand conspiracy, isn't it? People go on about how British cuisine is somehow crap. What complete and utter rubbish. Just don't eat Mr. Bean on toast. Heinz beans, crack 'em open. Yes, everybody knows beans means Heinz. Look for them in the light blue or teal can. You find 10s of those. I'm trying to think. Well, you can order them online through Amazon. That's one way. If you've got a world market somewhere near you, you might be able to get a 10 there. Beans, beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart, indeed. Anyways, moving on.
Anyway, with that divergence out of the way, so what's been going on? Well, we can actually go back through old newspaper archives. They are a wonderful resource, and people have been doing that over the past few days, particularly this account, Tempest Vista, who has been going through old newspaper archives and discovering the wondrous joys of diversity and all of the benefits and strengths that it's brought us over the past 100 years. And yes, I mean that, 100 years, because this goes back way further than the 90s. This wasn't Blair. This goes way back further than the 60s. Enoch Powell didn't know the half of it. This goes back before the Second World War. This can be traced as far back as the 1919 race riots, the colour riots in Liverpool and Cardiff, which we'll get onto later on. So let's just see what kind of benefits that we got straight away and the political response to them. Well, back in 2016, we'll start now and work our way back. We were told that passengers needed to see it, say it, sorted.
I hate that messaging so much.
Because of the threat of railway terror. That was
I can't tell you how many times I was in a tube station and you hear this come over the intercom. And someone saying it in a sort of school-marmy way of, see it, say it, sorted. I just hear that, I'm just like, ugh, cringe.
Classic one back in 2016. That was before the Manchester Arena bombings. It was after the Bataclan, though. And
I remember when that first came out, I was travelling, I'd commute into London from Essex, from Havering every day. And I remember when that first came on, I was like, I sort of couldn't believe my ears.
It's a bit Orwellian in a sense.
And then
blasted.
Really
But
is.
also say, if you see anything suspicious or anything wrong, do text this number. I was thinking of going through Barking in Stratford. I was thinking of texting them saying, yeah, my carriage is full of Indian people.
Can you remove them, please?
Suddenly.
Good luck.
and
it's funny that message never appears when I'm going down to the West Country, down to my way, where it's still 95% white. It's funny that they don't play it there, isn't it? Sorry.
Well, it's also funny that it doesn't work. Even now in Canterbury, we had the terror train attack just a few weeks ago. So that didn't work. Great job. 2005, Nick Lowles of Searchlight, later of Hope Not Hate, discusses grooming gangs, admitting that anti-racists maintained a general silence on the issue and that the BNP had played a tactical blinder by talking about a real and not perceived problem. Of course, this was not a problem because of the fact that the grooming gangs existed in the first place. It was actually a problem to scumbags like Nick Lowles because it gave the BNP a foot in the door politically.
Oh no, we can't have that now, can we? Good heavens.
Because they were the only ones willing to talk about it, and they'd been talking about it since the 1990s.
Imagine the cowardice of people at that time where they're just like, you know what, there's systematic rape of children going on at the hands of Pakistani men we brought into the country. Let's just not talk about it. Just pretend it's not going on. For the
Because we don't want to be seen as racist. That would be awful.
sake of my career and for the easiness of my life.
To make me feel better, and
Imagine what it takes. The logic in your mind that the problem isn't rapists, it's Nick Griffin, who's noticed the rapists.
I mean, that is literally the calculation they make. It's worse to notice racial tensions and racial problems that are real and are there. And they even admit it. I mean, what this is an admission that they see it too. They know it's happening. They choose to keep it from you. Anytime anyone in the mainstream media denies that this is happening, anytime that Piers Morgan tries to divert the conversation away from this so that he can talk about his yummy nom-nom foods, know that this is what's going on. He knows. He knows. He just thinks the calculation...
He knows. We know. We know he knows. And he knows that we know. And he knows that we know he knows. And yet they would rather try to keep a lid on it, cover it up, refuse to talk about it, in some hope that the problem will just magically go away, or that they won't have to admit that they have so colossally fucked up. It's incredible the lengths that people will go to soothe their egos and keep from having to admit they were wrong about something.
Of your daughters get raped so I get my food is worth it, so that he can get cheap labor cleaning his house. That's the calculation. That's how much these scumbags hate you. Back in 2000, asylum manager Robin Rennie states that the coming of asylum seekers has always had a positive effect, and
That's
that
a fucking
critics
lie.
were downright evil and were facing accusations of having vested interests in causing problems within their communities. This is always another classic line that they like to go through. You noticing the problem is actually you causing the problem. Racial tensions only arrive when white people, for no reason at all, decide, I don't like you because of the colour of your skin.
It's almost like a human resources way of thinking in the corporate world. If you bring a problem to them, you are somehow the problem, and you will be punished, rather than the actual problem being dealt with, because they don't want to actually do any fucking work.
I'm going to make up stories about you. That is the logic being
Void
presented
Meat, thank you for the follow.
that we still see today.
The idea that noticing it, that is really, really the problem. Like when I've talked often, even in the last segment, mentioned a nightmarish South African or Yugoslavian future, and lefties and traitors and commies will say, you would love that, wouldn't you? That's what you want.
You're trying to cause division.
Yeah, it's like, no, the exact opposite. I'm warning against that. That's the last thing I want. That's why I'm saying it now.
That's why we want political solutions to these sorts of things rather than all-out race war, right?
Unfortunately, I think we're past a lot of the political solutions, to the point now where civil unrest and race wars are slowly but surely becoming an inevitability in certain parts of the world. Before the BNP shed light on the foreign gangs, it was the National Front and the British movement, led by Colin Jordan. Yeah, there's been small movements throughout the decades and the years that have tried to sound a warning on this, and they all get the same treatment of, how dare you bring this up? What are you trying to do? Sow racial division and hatred. It's It's the attitude of you bring a problem, you are the problem. If you want to import people, probably don't import people that are actively seeking asylums. Yeah.
Because it would be devastating for everyone involved.
And this despite the fact that the year before, if I check, I believe it's...
But don't you know, Double? They're all supposed to be doctors and lawyers and solicitors and engineers. These are supposed to be the best and the brightest that are actively seeking asylum. Never mind the fact that most of them have room temperature IQs and are net drains on the social welfare systems of the countries they end up in. We're not supposed to pay attention to that. No, it's supposed to be the good and humanitarian thing to just let all these people come in en masse. Their policy is to hate the messenger, yes. It's the classic shooting of the messenger, because somehow they're the arsehole for pointing out, "Oi, you got a problem here."
The same man, yes, Robin Rennie, spoke about in 1999 how there were problems being caused by the asylum system because there needed to be more housing for them, and the government was announcing plans to house more asylum seekers in Essex to help relieve pressure on other areas of the country.
So the solution is to just import more of the problem. Got it. Asylum seekers were arriving from Kosovo, Chechnya, Afghanistan, Somalia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Albania, Ethiopia, and the Congo. Yes, because so many of those places are just home to so many high IQ professionals, your doctors, your lawyers, your engineers, your genius scientists. You know, real brain drain we got going from those parts of the world. Somehow we've got to find a balance between... Obviously we can't fuck ourselves over. We shouldn't unfairly trash talk potential geopolitical allies. Yeah, well, I mean, if they want to be good geopolitical allies, they can stop using our countries as a sort of pressure release valve to send over the dregs from their societies. Because a lot of that's all this is. I mean, we saw this for years and years between the United States and Mexico. So many people coming over the US-Mexican border illegally and just setting up shops, setting up residency in the United States. And now that those numbers have dramatically decreased and the border is effectively shut, except to those who can come through legally, we're starting to see, oh yeah, there's civil unrest in Mexico now. And turns out that people don't really like the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Turns out, not really the best strategy to kill all of your opposition in order to win the presidency, and then say to people that, oh, there's really nothing we can do about the gangs and about the drug running and everything like that. Because, you know, oh, that's outside of our sphere of influence. That's outside of our control. We just need to let that keep going. And they've somehow brainwashed themselves into thinking people are going to buy that line of bullshit. I think the AI may have gotten your last comment there, Cotternox. Don't worry about it. Not mutually exclusive, just a kind of irrelevant forward-looking thing. We should still try to maintain a good image in the non-retarded members of those societies. I don't know. I'm to the point where zero fucks are given about what a lot of other people think. I think we're kind of past all that. Another time and place, maybe, but I think we're kind of long past all of that. Those who genuinely respect us as powers, they'll find reasons to continue respecting us. Those that don't, they never were going to anyway.
This is a Labour classic. We complained about it when it was old Angela Rayner saying that we needed to disperse more asylum seekers so that everybody takes their fair share. This has been a problem going back at least 26 years. And these were asylum seekers from Kosovo, Chechnya, Afghanistan, Somalia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Albania, Ethiopia, and the Congo. Exactly where you want these people coming from.
Countries that we have no business with and would be better off never letting anyone from any of those countries in our country ever.
Yes.
If you notice,
Close
that's
the
just
doors,
2 years
lock them
after
down
Blair
tight.
got in. So already within 2 years, it's a thing, a significant, noticeable
Well,
thing.
already the year after Blair got in 1998, there were Islamists decrying the end of British tolerance as a hysterical reaction, with Omar Bakri Mohammed of Al-Muhajirun calling for the establishment of an Islamic state in Britain. So, but Robin
Yeah,
Rennie...
That in and of itself should be automatic disqualifier, automatic denaturalization, automatic one-way ticket back to wherever the hell they came from. You call for the establishment of an Islamic state or something so alien to British society. No. Just no. You have to go back. Simple as.
Echoing the sorts of things that we hear all the time these days, said even at the time that there was no problems caused by these people, you were wrong for saying that there was a problem. The problem only arrived when English people said, hold up, I don't want these people in our community for no reason. No reason at all. Going back to 1991, so this is before Blair. This is during the... would this have been John Major in 91, or would Thatcher have still been hanging on at that point?
Well, Thatcher, I think it would be early John Major. Thatcher, I think,
Yeah.
is the Christmas New Year of 1990 to 1991, around
Yeah, Thatcher was... She was in power until 1990. And then it was John Major from there on.
that time. Gulf War One.
So this is pre-Blair.
This is about John Major's time.
So this was in 1991. The Campaign Against Racism and Fascism were criticising the BNP for pulling a campaign in Rochdale which claimed that special privileges and constant handouts were being given to the Asian community. The BNP was said to be bothered by the growth of militancy in the Asian community. 1991. BNP.
And we're not talking about Asians like Japanese or South Korean or Malaysian or Singaporean, anything like that. We're talking, just for clarity's sake, when they mention Asians, they're talking about Middle Easterners.
Being the only people who were willing to call this out, that we see 14 years down the line, Nick Lowell saying, yeah, we knew there was a problem all along. We already knew there was a problem. The grooming gangs were real, the BNP were right. Our problem was not talking about it, not because we actually give a shit about your children being abused,
Yeah, they don't
but
care.
actually because we just don't want the BNP to have any political power.
Yeah, it's all about just, it was all about just sticking it to their opposition. They didn't want to admit that a hard right faction like the BNP could possibly be correct about anything at all. They had a narrative to push that they're just a bunch of stupid, evil racists who just need to be censored and silenced and locked up and hounded out of polite society, and nothing was going to get in the way of that narrative. When Steve Bannon called for the Christian state and three-state solution in Israel, I spit my cranberry juice out and ruined my carpet. Not a bad idea. Though I'm a bit biased towards the notion of, you know, maybe not three-state. Maybe we just have that be two-state between the Christians and the Jews, and just leave it at that. Let the Muslim loss of the Holy Land be punishment for all of their wrongdoings that we've had to endure for the past 20, 30 plus years.
1991.
It's interesting that in nearby Oldham in 2001, there were riots because of the privileges provided to the Asian community there.
Yeah, they're basically housed and paid to abuse your children. That's how the system works. Going back all the way
Because the system hates you and wants you dead.
now to 1980. A terrorist housed in Birmingham was set to become a campaign base to win aid for Mujahideen guerrillas fighting Russian troops in Afghanistan. A Birmingham shopkeeper said that £8,000 had already been sent from Britain to buy weapons for the guerrillas.
It was back when £8,000 was a lot of money and could actually buy you a fuck ton of things.
Like, you can say, well, at the time, they were allies in the fight against the Soviet Union. Yes. Why does it need to be in Birmingham?
It doesn't.
The Mujahideen, that's where Bin Laden started. That's where he came to prominence, am I right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like, so we were funding them. Our money, which could have gone back into our own economy, was being taken, siphoned off, and given to them, the terrorists. Great. Fantastic. 1980. Jumping back a ways now, 1961. 1961. The Labour Party, prepared to deal with the problems of Commonwealth immigration, worried that the rate of immigration is too high. In 1961, there were additional concerns that immigration was yet another problem which could divide the Labour Party. Now in this, it's interesting if you actually read this. Can you zoom in a little bit, please, Samson? Oh, okay. Either way. Here we go. You can see here that in the actual article, the party was a bit undecided as to what to do about all of this. But then a 16-year-old Mr. Harry Cohen from Selly Oak, a 16-year-old, a truth from the mouth of babes, got up and gave a speech talking about how awful it was that Labour was even talking in such a way because he was campaigning to get rid of colour prejudice and immigration control.
Who cares? Yeah, shut up.
He was then later commended for giving the bravest speech of the conference. 1961. Interesting that, isn't it?
Interesting when they crack out the kids, you know that someone's trying to manipulate you, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, won't someone please think of the children? I.e., we want the children of these societies to see us as paragons of fairness and justice because we are fair and just. In fairness, we can't just let any fucker from there in here. In justice, we shouldn't say fuck all those people in our society. No accusations here, just next move in the culture war. True and real? Though I don't think anyone really cares anymore what the children think. They're more like fuck them kids. What they really care about is getting to their parents and mainly getting their votes.
61 again. Sir Cyril Osborne calls for controls on immigration into Britain, stating that if the present rate of immigration continues, the British would cease to be a European nation and would become a mixed Afro-Asian society. 1961. And that's at the tiny rates of immigration comparatively that they had back then. I would assume that this is also going off of the idea of birth rates. Even back then.
I mean, 61 is already pre Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech. So, I mean, Enoch Powell himself said that he'd been saying those things that he said in that Rivers of Blood speech, which was, the late 60s. He'd already been saying it, and others had been for years. That just happened to explode that time when he said it. People had already been saying it for years at that point. So,
and people had been saying it for 7 years at least. Up to that point.
And now they've been saying it for decades and no one's listening, unfortunately.
Go all the way back to 1955. Birmingham City Council becomes concerned about the effect of uncontrolled immigration, citing a serious housing problem and the possibility of immigrants finding themselves out of work thousands of miles from their homes. So even
1955, so this is now 70 years ago. Still talking about the same fucking things. Nothing has changed. In fact, it's all gotten worse.
1951, 10 years after the end of the Second World War, this was already a problem.
And the same exact problems that we still have today.
Except on such a small scale in comparison to what we have now. But the fact that they weren't resolved then, the fact that this wasn't solved then, is why we are facing the legacy of it now. That's why we're living in the ashes. Because
it was left to fester. Nothing was done about it. Because some people didn't want to be called racist. And other people wanted to continue to justify their existence by letting that problem fester and ensure their own job security, either as an elected official or as a civil servant. And nothing was done about it.
This was not resolved at the time because even back then, the people leading us were cowards, spineless cowards. But that's just the political responses. That's the media responses. That's what we got from the
In 10 to 20 years, we're going to have to care about what those children thought. We will. And they're not going to be happy. People keep saying that the younger generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're all getting more and more radicalized. And I'm inclined to believe it. Because look at the world that we're leaving them. We're not really leaving them much in terms of an inheritance. We're leaving them a pretty shitty world. We're not leaving them much in terms of prospects for a good future. It's to the point where a lot of them feel they have nothing to lose. And frankly, I think they're right. They really don't have much to lose because not much was given to them in the first place.
Media talking about how the politicians were responding to it. What about the actual problems that these people were causing back then? Again, I'm going to take us back to more recent times and work backwards from there. So this is an interesting J'accuse article from January of this year, written by Mithras, who's an account on Twitter that you should follow. And he writes about the historical context of Pakistani migration and early stage evidence of grooming gangs. This is what inspired Tempest Vista to go through all of these archives and start to record it and publish it on Twitter himself. Some of the interesting information that he gives here statistically, which is relevant, is related to something that Genrick had said recently before this. Genrick said that the scandal started with the onset of mass migration and later states this disastrous experiment has continued for 30 years. This ties into the same narrative that Farage uses about immigration, the idea it was all fine and dandy until Tony Blair opened the borders from 1997 onwards. This is simply factually incorrect when discussing Pakistani rape gangs. The Alexis J report dates the onset of the mass rape atrocity to the 1970s at least, a time when Tony Blair was still an Oxford undergraduate. Between 1951 and 2001, the Pakistani population in Britain experienced remarkable growth, increasing from 10,000 in 1951 to 119,000 in 1971, and reaching 747,000 by 2001. Approximately 80% of British Pakistanis trace their origins to the Mirpur district of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Among these emigrants, 71% visit their homeland annually, 67% regularly send remittances, and 79% express a desire to return permanently.
Oh, we can help them with that.
Yeah, why can't we just send them back then?
Yeah, if you want to go back that badly, go. Big on. Go away. Again with that double. All right. 6, 7.
Be happy. We'd be grateful. We'd be doing them a favour. The city of Bradford, by 1944 to 45, there were estimated to be 30 Indo-Pakistanis in the city. By 1964, the city had a total population of 296,000, with 12,000 residents being Pakistani, 5,000 of whom originated from Mirpur. Am I pronouncing that right? Who cares? This sort of growth is typical for towns and cities in the north and Midlands of England with large Pakistani populations in 2025. By 1970, the Pakistani population of Bradford was estimated at 21,000, and by 2021, the Pakistani population of Bradford Metropolitan District totaled 139,553.
God. Going from 20,000 to over 130,000. There's a massive explosion in that population. And no doubt a combination of, not just mass breeding, but also continued unfettered immigration.
An exponential growth. And with it comes all of those problems that we were discussing before about housing, but also with it comes the actual problems that we all know and are familiar with. So back in 2006, starting from here, the government criticised for the management of offenders after 2 girls were tortured and raped for 3 hours in a Reading hotel by a South London drugs gang in 2005. These are the problems that happen when you have large foreign populations come in to your country who actually basically don't have rules or laws where they come from and are not ready or civilised for our laws and our rules and our...
They look at our rules and our laws as mere suggestions or impediments to doing whatever the fuck they like.
culture. The girls were then taken to a park where one was stabbed to death and the other one was shot in the head. And there's the victim there. In 2001, the Council of Mosques are forced to say sorry to a vicar in an attack after a church was stormed by a gang of up to 50 Asian youths. The gang had dragged rubbish into the church and set light to it, smashed the stained glass window, tossed hymn books around, and racially abused the vicar. Fantastic.
Forced to say sorry to a vicar. Interesting choice of words. Forced to say sorry. Didn't feel any sort of remorse. Would have never said sorry. Would never have... Probably would have just continued to celebrate it even. Unless someone stepped in and forced them to do it. In other words, they had to be dragged kicking and screaming into doing something resembling the right thing. This is who we're dealing with, chat. This is who and what we're dealing with. We can't share countries with these people. We just can't. We can't even share a civilization with them. They have to go back. Our ways are too alien to them, and their ways are monstrous to us. They have to go back. Vivian Moon, welcome in. How are you?
Are you feeling stronger? Are you feeling enriched? I'm not.
It's not just our strength, it's our greatest strength, remember?
Yeah. Robin Rennie, the asylum guy, said that there are only positives. Only positives.
Our friends and neighbours.
Yeah. 1998, a white boy, aged 15 years old, clubbed, beaten by a gang of 15 Asians. All of this is just stuff that you can find going into newspaper archives. And it...
Headline, racist thugs beat me for being white. Jason Hawkins, aged 15, clubbed with a baseball bat in a revenge attack by Asian youths. Nick Cuddles later, Shark Week is here. Oh, is it that time of year?
Just keeps going. It goes back and back and back. Let's see, 1998. This would have been around the time of the Steve Lawrence inquiry. Correct? Where was the inquiry about this guy? Where was the inquiry about this 1994 murder of a 15-year-old boy, Richard Everett, by 11 Asian youths, where even the police said that the killing may have been racially motivated? Was there an inquiry on this?
May have. It was.
Was there something talking about how the police were institutionally anti-white off of the back of this? How England was an institutionally...
You mean time of the month? Look, no. I mean, I thought Shark Week was supposed to be this sort of once annual thing on the Discovery Channel.
Anti-white country for allowing something like this to happen? Because I would argue it is. And it has been for a very, very long time. Stephen Lawrence, though, he gets his day in court. He gets his day in the sun after he's murdered, and they upend the entire policing system off of the back of that.
Make his mum appear.
Yeah.
Why not?
1989. Gangs of Muslim men toured daytime discotheques kidnapping Sikh girls to use as sex slaves, according to what a Birmingham court heard. 13 Sikh men, members of the Sher Punjab vigilante gang, were on trial for trying to protect their own girls.
I mean, who could blame them? They're just trying to protect their own. That's natural. But fairly certain that this wouldn't be an issue if we didn't have mass numbers of Sikhs and Muslims in the United Kingdom, especially in Birmingham. You wouldn't have this sort of racial factionalism going on, even as far back as 1989.
Wow. 1987. A Yemeni father is interrogated because of how he felt no guilt, because he tricked his own daughters into becoming child brides after sending them on holiday. He sold his daughters off for money to people they had never met.
And in his more savage part of the world, that's normal. Here, the concept is alien to us. New Fortnite chapters tomorrow. I'm so excited. Played the live event. It was like Avengers the game. That's cool.
Confronted at his flat, he said, "My girls will learn to enjoy it. Your laws can't touch me."
He wouldn't say that sort of thing if he didn't think it were true. The sheer arrogance of the man. And this is 1987. I just came out and said it. Your laws cannot touch me. And knowing the system the way I do, I doubt anything was done about it. Everyone was teaming up. That's cool.
Migration success story. Clearly. 1981. A Manchester girl arrested alongside a Pakistani student at Islamabad airport, Pakistan, on drug charges. She claimed that she'd fallen into a love trap and that her boyfriend had made her a member of a smuggling group. Familiar? Does this sound like the exact same thing that we've been hearing for decades? This is the go-to method. You trick them into thinking that you're in a dedicated relationship, and then you force them into a life of crime with you. Brilliant. 1972, and this is a particularly bizarre one. Jury finds that a 32-year-old Jordanian doctor was charged with murdering 3 children and attempting to murder another child, and 2 nurses at a Blackpool hospital was unfit to plead charges because the man, Ahmad Alami, was described as a paranoid schizophrenic. Also, very strange in here, it says in here...
How is it that someone who is a paranoid schizophrenic becomes a doctor in the NHS? How the hell is that even supposed to be possible?
Pending the... Oh my goodness, can we zoom in on this as well, please, Samson? Thank you. This is a particularly bizarre one here. Pending the decision, Alami, son of the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem...
Blimey.
Okay.
So, this guy, the son of the Grand Mufti, was able to get into the country and then managed to blag his way into a doctor's position, despite being a paranoid schizophrenic, and murdered 3 girls. At which...
That's how he was able to do it. He's the son of a Grand Mufti. The son of a very powerful man. And the absolute cowards in the British government did not want to have any sort of diplomatic row. So they just had him on in. Oh yeah, you want to be a doctor? Yeah, here you go.
At which point, he was unable to plead. He should have just been hanged. Sorry, no, there's no reason for men like this to keep breathing.
There really isn't. A stabbist like this, no. 3 young children attempted to murder a 4th child and 2 nurses in a Blackpool hospital. And because he's the son of the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, he got off. I didn't even have the decency to just claim diplomatic immunity like the old days. They had to add insult to injury to say, oh, he's a paranoid schizophrenic, so unfit to plead to charges.
Sorry, don't care if that hurts your feelings. Oh, but what about the overstepping of the state? Don't care. Don't care, he deserved to die.
Also, the idea that because you're mentally ill, you escape the hangman's noose is insane to me.
There's more reason.
Yeah, if anything, we'd be doing them and the rest of society a favour.
Well, especially paranoid schizophrenia. Can you name anyone who's recovered from that?
No.
No, me neither.
No.
1966, a Pakistani man accused of indecently assaulting a 15-year-old girl who had gone to his house to cook for him. The man said, "It isn't a shame at all what I have done. It was nice," and that he would do it with many English girls.
This is how they think, chat. This is what they think of us. They just see us as prey, and they as a hunter. Liberals that become conservative are rehabilitated schizophrenics. Are they, though? I wonder.
1966. 1965. 2 black men accused of being white slave traders. At a Manchester court, it was alleged they had picked up girls in clubs and coffee bars, where they were then driven to Bradford and sold to Pakistanis and others for £10 and £20 each.
Back when £10 and £20 was a lot of money.
1959. A 40-year-old Pakistani male abducts and commits 3 indecent offences against a 15-year-old girl in Accrington. 1955. 3 Pakistani men accused of having carnal knowledge of a 15-year-old Middlesbrough girl. Do you get the point yet? Do you get the point? There wasn't any period after the war where we were just accepting the good ones and everything was going hunky-dory. This has always been what they do. This is always...
It's been a long, multi-decade festering problem that absolutely fuck all has been done about it.
Is how it goes with these people. And Piers Morgan sees this and goes, as long as I get my curry, as long as I get my tikka masala, I'm happy to make any excuse for this.
He said, I can still physically see Tower Bridge.
And how pathetic that his price is really that low. It sell out his own countrymen for a curry, or for the chicken tikka masala. I mean, Judas Iscariot, at least, betrayed Christ for 30 pieces of silver. Piers Morgan betrays his own countrymen for a bowl of slop. There's just something so pathetic about that.
So everything's all right. That was the clip I saw with his Tucker interview when Tucker started talking about demographics. He said, look, London is different. And Piers Morgan points out, look, I can see Tower Bridge, though.
Amazing.
Everything's fine. What are you talking about, Tucker?
It's not like the bridge would collapse, is it? It's the people he's on about.
Of course. What a mad thing. What a mad thing to say and think.
And of course, this goes from before the Second World War as well, because while immigration did massively expand following the end of the Second World War, it was still a small trickle. We still had a very small population prior to the Second World War of foreigners from African and Middle Eastern countries. And even in those tiny, tiny populations that we had back then, guess what? They were still doing the same thing. Blackpool, 1930. A traffic in white girls by coloured men on Merseyside. An Indian, formerly a conjurer, at a temple of mysteries at Blackpool, married his white wife in a mosque, sentenced to 6 months of hard labour for living in part on the earning of a 20-year-old white woman. Mothers had complained that their daughters were missing and were later found at this man's premises. Young girls should be warned against answering certain advertisements and entering into the employment of foreign men. Why? That's because he was tricking them into coming, thinking that they were going to be getting jobs, and then getting them into some form of indentured servitude, and then selling them off as prostitutes. And it goes even further beyond before that as well, all the way back to the race riots of 1919. This is an excellent article by Wilhelm Iverson, formerly known as American Krogan. I would really recommend anybody to read through this. I can't go through the whole thing. I've already taken a lot of time because of how long and in-depth the article is. But of course, he also goes back through a lot of the reports from newspapers at the time of the 1919 riots in Liverpool and Cardiff, and you can see a very similar pattern of violence and abuse emerge back then. But he also addresses a lot of the more modern narratives that somebody like Piers Morgan might want to throw out as response to all of this, by saying that there's a narrative of local males being sexually jealous and frustrated by foreign men, and that's a narrative that various academics like to entertain regarding these race riots, and even to this day, many of them will try to argue that these girls who are entrapped by foreign gangs are actually just going into these gangs because they like the men, because they really are the boyfriends. They willingly accepted being prostituted out to all of these men. And the only reason...
No one in the right mind willingly accepts that sort of thing. No one.
reason that you, the white man watching this right now, have any problem with it is because of the fact that you're sexually jealous. You're jealous that the white girls prefer the foreign men. And he...
They're practically just calling them incels. They're just saying that they're incels with tiny little penises. If you have a problem with this. And that is the best that they can come up with. And it is such a feminine argument. It's sort of like trying to argue with a woman that inevitably they just go back to, you're an incel, you're gay, and you have a small penis.
Addresses a lot of that going back into this context, saying about how if you actually read the newspaper archives, a lot of the people protesting mixed race relationships back then were other women, and that most of the women who engaged in this kind of stuff were of, quote, a certain temperament and, quote, a certain type of white woman, prostitutes, and that the men only tended to get involved when violence actively broke out. Most of it was instigated by the foreigners in the first place. And bear in mind, again, this is maybe when we had a population of 10,000 foreign people at most in the country, who were all congregated in port cities like Cardiff and Liverpool. And I'll just read an excerpt here. So, insofar as the most frequent context in which local women were associating with foreign men, consider that the Times had reported back in May on a police raid of a local foreign gambling house, a black gambling house. Quote, at midnight on Sunday, a gambling house in Chestnut Street, Liverpool, was raided by the police, and as a result, the 14, should I read the word, or I'll say blacks, and 3 white women appeared before the Liverpool stipendiary magistrate yesterday. It was stated that the blacks put up a desperate struggle before being arrested, and several of them appeared in court wearing bandages. The occupant of the premises was lined £25 with 2 months imprisonment for carrying on a gaming house. For assisting in its management, 2 other black men were fined £10 each. The other black men and the women were bound over. 5 of the men were sentenced to 14 days imprisonment with hard labour for assaulting the police. So these were women associating with criminals. The Leicester Daily Post on the June 17th reported the locals became indignant and wrecked an Arab cafe that was clearly serving as a brothel. Mohammed Rabel, an Arab from Aden, was summoned to the Thames Police Court yesterday afternoon for allowing a restaurant kept by him in Cable Street, St George's East, to be frequented by women of loose character. The evidence of police officers was to the effect that white women of a certain class were in the habit of sitting in the place, getting into conversation with coloured men, leaving with them and returning shortly afterwards. It was further alleged that acts of gross indecency took place in the shop. Incidentally, it was mentioned that the defendant's shop had since been wrecked by a crowd of indignant white men. The magistrate said that he was not clear in this case and dismissed the summons. Wilhelm carries on to say, considering the vague language here and that the summons was ultimately dismissed, this clipping may seem inclusive to some. It may even appear that local men were in fact just jealous, so some explanation is required. These newspapers were not in the habit of explicitly stating certain indecent acts. You can read many newspaper clippings from the time, they all use some form of euphemism. But contemporary readers would have readily understood that the author was discussing prostitution, and indeed it was a commonly accepted fact that at this point that Maltese men in particular became well known for running cafe brothels in Bluetown, Cardiff, an area known to locals as Tiger Bay. And he carries on to talk about some other examples, and the greatest evil he's quoting here, the South Wales News, and I'll end on this part because I've gone quite a long time. Quoting the September 1916 issue of the South Wales News, said some of the following about the overall situation in Cardiff and the trafficking of young girls. The greatest evil of all is the importation into Tiger Bay of young girls from the hills and valleys of South Wales. They are tempted to come as domestic servants to the alien boarding houses, and it is not unusual to find sometimes as many as 3 or 4 of them from 15 to 17 years of age, ostensibly employed as domestics in a place packed to the roof with foreigners. Their degradation is all too frequently only a matter of weeks. They become part of the boarding house keeper's stock in trade, an attractive business asset, and if questioned on the subject they will tell you that they are engaged or married to one of the lodgers. It is pitiable to see some of the victims of this revolting system. Everyone with whom I discussed the matter said the evil could not be exaggerated. It baffled description, and no terms that could be used would be too strong to denounce it. I came away with the firm conviction the authorities should absolutely prohibit the employment of white girls by aliens in this area. Because again, they were employing them, coercing them into prostitution, and then keeping them there through money and fear. That's as far back as 1916. The tiny population that we had back then was still doing the exact same thing. And Piers Morgan says this is all fine, so long as he can have a nice curry.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.
It's absolutely sick that people in the upper echelons of society, especially in British society, think that this is somehow okay, as long as they're able to get their bowl of slop. And as long as it's happening to those working-class chav girls, rather than they in the elite and upper crust, somehow they just don't count. Anyways, there's the link in chat for everyone.